Good evening, everyone. Today, September 11th, 2025, and welcome to the City of Soledad Special Planning Commission meeting. It is 6:14 p.m. and I'm calling today's meeting to order. This meeting will also be streaming on the city's YouTube channel for the convenience of our community and for viewing purposes. So we'll go ahead and start off with our second agenda item, the commissioner roll call. So thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Josie Perez Aguilera,
Present.
Vice Chair Sergio Diaz,
Here.
Commission Member Sandy Fuerte,
Present.
Commission Member Roberto Cruz, Commission Member Lorenzo Sanchez.
Present.
Okay, thank you very much. So only 4 commissioners are present with 1 absence. We have a quorum, so let's continue on with this meeting. We'll move on to the next agenda item, the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, can I have everyone please stand up and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so next up, we have our 4th item on the agenda, on to public comment. So we have okay, so for public comments, at this time, any member of the public may address the commission on items of interest to the public that are within the matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please be brief and to the point. No action or discussion shall be taken on an item not appearing on the agenda, except that commission members may briefly respond to the statements made or questions posed by the members of the public. And I'll go ahead and be formal. So are there any public comments in the chambers? None? Or any Zoom comments? And did staff receive any written comments?
None over Zoom.
Okay, none over Zoom and no written comments. All right, so seeing and hearing that there are none, we'll go ahead and close the comments, the public comments. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. The approval of the minutes for Special Planning Commission meeting of May 22nd, 2024. Planning Commission minutes of 05.2224. And do we ask for motion on all together? Or?
Yeah, it could be all together.
All together? Okay, so we'll go ahead and do all of them all together. So approval of the minutes. The second one is minutes for Special Planning Commission meeting of July 10th, 2024. Minutes for Special Planning Commission meeting of February 2025. The fourth one, the minutes is the meeting of June 12th, 2025, the Special Planning Commission meeting. Another Special Planning Commission meeting of July 24th, 2025, as well as a Special Planning Commission meeting of August 28th, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fuerte. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Okay, and Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Josie Perez Aguilera,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sergio Diaz,
Yes.
Commission Member Sandy Fuerte,
Yes.
Commission Member Roberto Cruz, Commission Member Lorenzo Sanchez.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes 4 in favor, none against, and 1 absent. Thank you. So next agenda item is item number. Item number there, 7.
7.
Yeah, item number 7, yeah, for business, yeah. So we'll go ahead and move on. So item number 7. Here we have resolution number 2025-05, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Soledad, recommending that the City Council of the City of Soledad adopt an ordinance approving planned unit development PUD-23001 and vesting tentative subdivision map TM 23002 to allow a 4.5 acre a subdivision located on the east side of Orchard and Cedar Lane in the R3 Residential High Density Zoning District, APN 022-522-037. And we did have some attachments to review. Are we gonna go ahead and review those here
Yes,
during the meeting?
yes.
So let's go ahead and do that.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Planning Commission. Ariana Mora with the City of Soledad. I'll be doing a brief presentation on the staff report. The recommended actions at this time is to receive the staff report and consider a staff recommendation to approve the original plan for parcel B as proposed. So we'll go ahead and start with that. Just a brief recap. On August 28th, the department presented the project named Parcel B, where it proposes 37 small lot family homes, 24 multifamily units, creating a total of 61 units on a 4-acre site zoned R3. So this parcel was created through a previous annexation, which is additional land added to within city limits. And it's being proposed for development and entitlement today. As I mentioned, this item was first brought to the Planning Commission on August 28th to provide approval or recommend approvals, review and recommend approvals for the reduction of setbacks, the reduction of smaller lots, as we know, small lot configuration, as well as open space requirements and parking, deviations of parking requirements. During that meeting, the Planning Commission directed staff to come back and look at open space requirement and on-site parking requirements, the deviation from the requirements. Therefore, those are the only items we'll be looking at tonight. As the other items were Planning Commission express acceptance of those waivers. Again, this is just a visual representation of where the project site is located. It is located right above Orchard Lane Park, which is by Hartnell College, across the street towards the back end of San Vicente Elementary School. And the Summerfield annexation, it doesn't include all of it, but it's part of that annexation that was done back in 2000, maybe 15. Here is the site plan that is being proposed for approval tonight, which is the original site plan that was presented on August 28th. In red, you will see the multifamily apartment complexes. And then the rest are the 17 single-family townhomes, and then the interior lots are also single-family units. Once again, the commission reviewed the proposal on August 28th. They accepted the proposed lot design, included requested reductions in setbacks and related deviations, and determined that the subdivision achieves compatibility with adjacent properties, while allowing reasonable modifications to the lot dimensions and setbacks. However, the commission decided not to recommend approval due to concerns about open space and parking. With respect to the open space, under our code for subdivisions, in this case for the planned development, developments with more than 6 units are required to provide recreational amenities on at least 50% of the required open space. As proposed back in August 28th, staff recommended the condition that the deviation recommended approval of the deviation of the open space with the condition that the developer provides a gate or pedestrian access from the neighborhood out into Orchard Lane Park, which is right next door, as seen in the image right here on the right side, giving it access from the neighborhood over to Orchard Lane Park, which is already an existing park. The commission expressed concern about the city's existing parkland deficiency and did not find the reduced open space acceptable. Therefore, we're bringing it back for consideration as well tonight. Excuse me. Well, the applicant, and here is a slide about the park, the development standards for that open space. Their total recreational requirement is 6,100 square feet, and the proposed park is 4,800, so they're about 1,300 square feet short. In return, the Planning Commission directed staff to provide alternative options to consider, and the developer proposed option one, which is somewhat seen right here, and I'll show a different picture of where that is actually located in the development. But as you can see, the developer in his option one is removing 2 housing units to create more green space, and actually exceeds the 1,300 requirement, which is now 1,368 square feet, and is also providing benches within that green space. In addition to an additional parking space, which we'll talk further in the presentation. While the applicant demonstrated parking compliance with off-street parking standards on single-family dwellings and provided adequate circulation, emergency access measures, and the multifamily component of the project was still deficient, the applicant fell short by 28 off-street spaces for the multifamily units and proposed addressing the shortfall by utilizing the on-street parking. So this is the chart that was again presented last meeting with the same calculation that although it is being proposed on the street, the parking demand is still met in big picture numbers. Let's see. And as I mentioned, this is the option one that the developer came back with for consideration, where it's located towards the entrance of the subdivision if you're going up Orchard Lane from Metz Road. Excuse me. It's adding an additional parking space where it was initially proposed as 6. And I do believe there was a typo in the staff report where it did mention 2, but looking at the diagram, it is 7 spaces. And then the green space is also proposed as 1,368 square feet. So that is the option the developer came back with for review and consideration. Coming back with a proposal and in conversations with the developer, again, they provided a new option that includes 59 units and additional common space, whereas the original proposal includes 61 units and would still need the reduction in open space and parking. Ultimately, tonight, staff will is still recommending approval of the 61 unit proposal, which is the original proposal, due to maximizing the number of units on the site and help meet our RENA numbers. That we are in critical need of these housing units, not only for Soledad, for the state itself. Staff believes that the slight improvements in open space and parking do not compensate for the loss of those residential units, meaning that those residential units are more of a need than the proposed open space, comparing the pros and the cons on that end. In addition, if we lose those 2 units, we would also find a lack of our impact fees. With development, each unit, the developer is supposed to provide impact fees per unit. So in this case, we would lose an additional $14,060 in park impact fees for future recreational projects. So these impact fees, I guess to summarize, the developer needs to pay impact fees for traffic, safety, water, sewer, parks, and I think the other one's government. In this case, that money goes to those independent categories that the city use for our own infrastructure projects or any other projects that our public works team has to do. So in this case, we would lose about $14,000 in park impact fees if we have less units on the site. As I mentioned, staff recommendation tonight is to approve the original proposal. One thing to consider is the housing production versus option one. reducing the number of units in option one limits our city's ability to meet RENA. So during our housing element, because the application was already in place, we did count this project as 61 units. And that is a requirement that we have to do through our housing element to report what housing pipeline projects are in the queue. And we have to take those numbers into consideration. Again, minor gains in open space parking do not outweigh the loss of essential housing units. It's no surprise that the whole state is in a housing crisis. Therefore, we believe that maximizing as much as possible is the best for us to meet the RENA numbers. The benefits of the original design, again, maximizing housing production while maintaining circulation, access, and livable open spaces. They are meeting the other requirements with private open spaces, whereas the common space, which is a recreational component, is being deficient. And because it's next to Orchard Lane Park, staff believes as long as we provide an adequate accessible pathway from the existing development into Orchard Lane Park, it could create better access for residents instead of going around down Orchard Lane into the park itself. Lastly, we do have our housing element goals and programs that we recently adopted that support small lot subdivision, that support the waiver of development standards to help prioritize and streamline housing. So approving this project would align with our city's goals to efficiently develop undeveloped sites and move towards checking what we're required to do by the state. Open space and park access, again, on-site reduction in recreation and parking is really minimal. It's about 1,300, which again accommodates for 2 units that staff believes is more essential than creating the open space due to, again, the Orchard Lane Park being next to the subdivision. Proximity to Orchard Lane Park, I think the priority was to have that accessible gate from the project site over to Orchard Lane Park and figure out how we, as a condition, the developer is able to propose that access. Then again, the impact fees, preserving our impact fees for development will help us use those fees for future projects, which if recommended through to go forward with option 1, we would lose that amount. And again, going back to our housing element, which again, we do have to comply per state law. We have different programs that incentivize for affordable housing. One thing to clarify is that affordable housing for subdivisions and housing here in Soledad for new projects is a requirement per our ordinance. They're required to do 20%, which would translate to about 12 units of the subdivision. And in our programs, we consider that as affordable housing. And we also have a program to help create those units and eliminate barriers of development, including parking standards. So we already have a program in our housing element where we're going to look at our parking standards and reduce them to help incentivize more development in Soledad and modernize parking standards as well. Once again, I think one of the unique things with this project is that we need to understand the balancing the development standards and our housing goals. Prioritizing parking unit count undermines our housing element goals, which is what we're trying to reach and check off for compliance, as the city has not been doing that in the past. And that includes meeting our RENA numbers as well. This is a project that is also an example of infill as it's developing the vacant sites. As you know, there's already development on both sides. It would definitely clear out a vacant land. It's accessible to transit. There is a circulator bus around as well, and 2 major stops up by Jack Francione and then at Hartnell College, which is a few down the street, a few feet away. as well as walkable amenities and parks. As we mentioned, it's right next to Orchard Lane Park and in front of a school as well. Flexible parking standards prevent unnecessary limits on housing production. So that is something that staff wants to, make sure we consider that although we want to develop housing units, we also have to be considerate of what are the big picture goals for the city and the state. And then preserving the original 61 unit proposal advances housing production, affordability, and policy compliance. Upon adoption of the resolution, the Planning Commission's recommendation would be forwarded to the City Council for consideration. The City Council serves as the final decision-making authority for the plan development and the vesting map approvals. While it can take the Planning Commission's recommendation into account, the City Council has the power to approve, modify, or deny the project. So the action tonight is to make that recommendation, and whether it is approval with specific conditions or denial with specific conditions, it is up to the Planning Commission to provide that feedback to the City Council, and City Council would make the final decision at a public hearing. As previously mentioned, the project was mentioned in the August 28th meeting. The project is already complying with our CEQA requirement, or with the CEQA requirements, that it was part of the annexation, which had its own environmental analysis done, and it also qualifies for an infill exemption under CEQA since it's under 5 acres. And it's consistent with the general plan, contains no endangered species, would not result in significant events related to noise, air quality, or water quality. At this time, this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to clarify. Let me see. I think I have a backup slide for that here. So this is our 6 RHNA cycle numbers. We have to meet 100 very low, 65 low, 183 moderate, 376 moderate, above moderate, totaling us to 724 units for the next up to 2031. That's our deadline there. Out of this, we would account for, it's 12 units. Was it? I can't remember how many it is for the low and very low. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of those 12 units, we would account for those categories, and then the rest would go above moderate. So we would be filling in some buckets of those numbers. Based on the last report, yeah.
Yeah. So 668 of the 12. How many units are we looking at? 2, 3.
Yeah, so it's probably gonna be,
Do you remember the numbers, Laith, by any chance?
Yeah, it's but between low and very low, it's 7, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So certainly the 12.
Then 5 moderate.
5 moderate, and I think it was, 7. It was 3. It could be probably 3 low, and then because there's decimal, so we have to round up in one of the categories. I just don't know which one we have to do that math. Yeah. It would be very low, low, and then moderate. It would fill one of the buckets. So in total, we have to do those. Yes.
so that's a cycle that we did, that's why we see higher numbers under very low and low, because we didn't use any units of the prior cycle, so even though you don't have to necessarily based our new count in the previous cycle, it does carry over some weight because we get assigned more units for the ones that we did not complete in the previous cycle. So it does have consequences of not providing the units assigned in each cycle. So now for cycle 6, we have a lot of units in the very low and low because we didn't provide in cycle 6, cycle 5.
Five.
So what is the consequence or the penalty if we don't meet the given numbers?
So one of the biggest issues with no meeting our unit numbers is that there is a state mandate that is called the builder's remedy. So if we are not meeting our numbers, the state can take over the city's jurisdiction to make decisions of redevelopment. So the state can control all of the decisions of any new development if we continue to not meet our unit numbers. That's a high risk.
So we don't approve this when we don't, we're not meeting, we're very deficient. I mean, for me, it's an easy, yeah.
Mhm.
For me, it's easy, approve the original 60. Let's move along.
Right, we'll be short. We'll
Oh.
be short. Just on the. So it's basically the way it was built to hit those very low and moderate on those numbers. And it is a reading requirement. So
Mhm.
we didn't meet it on our first cycle. And we'll be even shorter on the 6th cycle.
Accumulates is basically
Right.
what's happening
Yeah.
if we keep pushing these projects off.
And
And the need is there, to be honest, the
Yeah.
demographics, the people are looking for these low, very low.
the consequences would be, I think,
We wouldn't be needed.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
not even
somebody else is
that. I
gonna
mean,
come
just
in
the
and step
fact like
in
what
and
type
make
of
our
decisions would the state make,
Yeah.
But
given
let's
where
not
we're
forget that it's 4 units, right? So it's not, the project is not solving all the issues that we see here.
Right, but still 4 is 4. More than 0.
I-
Than-
And just to clarify, right now is the questions on part, because it is still like going to public hearing. So before we get into a discussion, we can address a few questions first and then go into the
Okay.
discussion section. Just,
I don't think last time this question was answered. How many lots were split?
I don't think I have that slide. So how many lots were created in total?
So the ones that went from 5,000 to about half.
So they were never proposed as 5,000. The lots, so right now, this is one big lot. It's a 4-acre lot. And this lot is being subdivided into about 42 lots, if I'm not mistaken. And
So
though
based on the city standards, so they would have 20.
they could have been around, well, yes, they're at 5,000 minimum for a lot size for this zoning section, but the zoning density minimum is 12 units per acre. So there's 4 acres. So you would have about 48 units. Mhm. Minimum. If that were the case. But again, there's a lot of different factors that go into the site development. And that includes, again, the setbacks, the length of the street that is being proposed on. And in this case, that was already discussed and accepted on the last meeting. And I think for the purposes of the action tonight is to consider that open space waiver or the parking conversation as well.
Well, it was approved, but it's part of it.
Mhm.
Right, so another question that I had was, what's the reason behind making the street a private street compared to a public street?
Mhm. So when it comes to development, the city can only regulate what is being proposed with our codes. And through our code and development throughout, I'm going to say California, they can propose private streets as long as they meet those requirements where they're going to maintain the streets. And if they're private, they don't meet the public standard requirements. So public streets are usually about 40 feet wide. And in this case, the street is being proposed about half to just meet circulation, entrance, and exits. It's not proposing on-street parking only in some areas. And typically some of the developments that are private streets, do not meet those standards of on-street parking. It's usually just to go in and out. Because it's the project as proposed, we as a city can only regulate how it can get built to meet health and safety standards. So it's ultimately it's an option from the developer to propose that type of project. And as long as it meets our minimum densities and it meets our general plan housing element goals, and it again meets health and safety standards, we are able to propose it and bring it forward for review and consideration from our legislative bodies, including Planning Commission and City Council.
By this being a private street, it's not gonna be a gated community, is it? Just, it's open?
What I'm thinking, do you guys know about the Sunflower housing development over in East Alsa off of Veranda, and I think it's Constitution?
Yes.
I think it's gonna be like that.
Mhm.
So it's like still kind of a HOA type of thing. They're private streets, but people can go in and out. And then I think they built pathways into the park down into the park for part of that green access. That's what they ended up doing. Cause I was thinking about Creekside too, kind of did the same thing with the walking paths to the main park that's there. But I'm thinking it's closer to the Sunflower on East Salinas. Yeah, because they were smaller, dense parcels. It was a smaller piece of land. So this is sounding like this is what it might look like.
Yeah, so this is what we call a small lot subdivision, right? And as Commissioner Diaz mentioned, the in our code, the regular lot sizes are usually around 5,000 for single family homes, and that's the minimum. When you come and bring in a planned unit development, you can request to deviate from those standards if you find the findings that, again, health and safety are met, meaning entrance and exits to the subdivision, as well as compliance to making sure that the project does not, it doesn't create an impact to the existing aesthetics or to the existing area or environment that is located on. And again, as previously mentioned, it's something that we have been working on with the developer for a long time, and we brought forward the last meeting, and we still believe that the original proposal of 61 units would still benefit the residents of Soledad and the community here.
It looks to me like a community I visited in Sonora a while back, where the street was smaller. It is a private road, but it was large enough for, the fire truck to come in, any emergency vehicles.
Does that include the new fire truck?
The
That
big one.
includes, yes.
That would be that was my next question. Can the big one maneuver in there or not?
Yeah, and and I think and I forgot to mention the developer is here also for any questions that the commission has before we get into the discussion portion of it. But I think that was also another holdup. This project has been with the city for a few years already due to various reasons. And I think the last holdup was compliance with stormwater regulations, which is now in compliance, and compliance with our emergency vehicle access. So we did provide a diagram in the entitlement package that shows the turning radius of the fire ladder truck as well.
Okay. My other question would be amenities for disabled, elderly who are low income, accessibility using walkers, wheelchairs, accessibility to the park itself, children with disabilities, young adults or older adults with disabilities. What type of amenities are available to them or can be addressed? Given that I wasn't here at that last meeting, but I did read and got that update. So looking at those, that was another, me, I was asked that being with my background. So what thought has been put into that?
So I could briefly talk a little bit and maybe the architect can weigh in here, but part of the review process when it goes through the building stage, I think it's a building code requirement now where it's aging in place, where you do have to design and review design and review plans to conform with aging in place requirements for ADA access as well and compliance. So that will be a requirement through the construction phase for the building units in total. When it comes to the park, I think right now it's proposed as a picnic area and a tot lot that they will be putting in, but I'm not sure if the developer or the architect would like to weigh in on anything like that beyond that point.
I'd be happy. Do you want to open the public?
You can, it's a question.
Handle it how you like. It's your show. Yeah, Randy Russell with RM Design Group. Thank you for having me back and in such a quick turnaround for all the staff. Couple things came up in the presentation, but I'll talk about that one first off. Yeah, you're right. The California Building Code requires a certain amount of accessibility. So the park pathways along the sidewalk to the park from the public way, from all the buildings, all has to be accessible. All the ground floor units of the multifamily have to be adaptable. So that means wider doorways, bathrooms that can function as accessible bathrooms, things of that nature. The single family do not have to meet that same standard. But any of the places where the public can access has to have that, and including we have accessible parking spaces indicated in the multifamily. Following up on just a couple of things that I heard that I wanted to add to there. We heard you. We tried to find an answer to the problem that was presented, which was, we don't feel like there's enough parking. That my analysis of parking and the commission's analysis of the parking differed. And fundamentally, I think it hung around the fact that we put some of the on-street parking as guest parking on the other street, which I thought was a very valid point when we heard it and said, okay, I can see that perspective. And we tried to find a solution to that and the open space. The reality of, you can see it's a very full site as you would want in a multifamily zoned parcel. You wanted to get all the housing you can get in there. That resulted in having to make a reduction in units. It did allow us, when we did that, it did, as indicated in the graphic previously, we did get some more open space. It could be barbecue area, it could be a variety of things to answer what's in the park. That is not designed in the sense it's colored circles right now. But we did actually had 2 additional parking spots into the parking spaces, one on the front and one to the very back there. So when you did the calculation for the reduced number of units of 22 multifamily, we in fact on that side met the requirement of 50 units, and we would have exceeded the calculation for the open space. But again, in our meetings with staff, they encouraged that, they felt strongly that our first proposal after maybe 5 years working on this, that was still the one that served the community the best. But I wanted to make sure we had something in front of you that respected your requests and that you could evaluate in the situation. So I'm here to answer any questions, but I think y'all seen the presentation and I agree. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm here for questions.
Thank you. Okay, so any other questions?
I have a technical question from 2 weeks ago, last week.
Mhm.
So since we thought when there was 2-1 vote that it got approved, right?
Mhm.
So it only partially got approved?
So there was no motion provided, but the motion at the end,
Because what I remember was a motion was made, the
Mhm.
vote happened,
mhm,
2-1 vote,
mhm.
and then you stated that we needed to come back again.
Was it unanimous?
It was there was a second motion after that. So when the first motion was made, it wasn't approved, therefore the motion fails. And that's when the alternative motion occurred, when it was made to bring this item back specifically for the open space and parking.
So you didn't have 3, right?
Yeah.
You didn't need the-
Yeah, the majority vote for any action with the planning commission, because there's 5 members. It has to be 3-2 or 3-1, but it's a 3-person vote for majority.
Thank you.
right, so we'll go into planning commission discussion. We have,
The public hearing first, sorry.
oh, public hearing?
Yeah, open the public hearing.
Okay, so now we'll go ahead and open it up for a public hearing.
The time, sorry. At 6.
At 6:54, we opened it up for
Mhm.
a public hearing.
Mhm.
Do we have any comments? Do we have any comments in Zoom or written? None? Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And move on to a motion
Or discussion.
or discussion. I'm sorry, discussion.
Mhm.
So do we want to have a discussion on this? Sergio, you were in the last meeting. I know you had some. concerns and comments.
Where to start? So although we, based on what you just said, now we approved the deviations for the lot split and the lot and the setbacks. In my opinion, it's still a big project. And not only are we approving that, but also learning about HOA fees and being a private street and going from 40 feet to 20 is something else that kind of caught my mind after the meeting.
Mhm.
Although, yes, there was an option here provided and there's an open space and it looks lovely there for families to picnic. My biggest concern was still the parking, and it's still the parking today. I don't think there was much effort done in that to address that. So for those reasons, I'm still a little hesitant for my part to vote yes for the project as a whole because of the parking. I still think it's going to be an issue for the people living in those apartments. I still think the deficit of 28 parking spots is going to be an issue. If you guys don't think that's an issue, I mean, I'm only one person, but I think it's going to be an issue. I would not want to live there. I would not want to live in the apartments, in the condos, the smaller homes. Great. We discussed that in the last meeting. The city needs this type of housing, the diverse housing, smaller homes. But again, the parking for the people who are living in apartments, again, I would not want to live there. And because I wouldn't want to live there, I wouldn't want to have my family there. I don't feel comfortable voting yes for other people to live there. As far as the impact fees go, I get it. I understand. But again, the parking for me, it's going to be an issue. It's an issue now currently in town. So for us to approve another project, knowing this is going to be an issue, I just don't agree with it.
Can I ask a question? Thank you for your input. In regards to the parking, so just to address what Sergio's saying, like, yeah, we all know parking's a major issue. And as we move towards a more dense model of building, building, I think of San Francisco, I think San Jose, and and even Salinas, right? I also think of Las Palmas, right, which is an HOA. It's really not truly gated. People can come in and out, but parking is an issue, right? You have your 2 parking spaces in that home, and then if you're lucky, you find something on the littler street, right? So looking at this, I mean, the requirements that have been condensed are condensed by the state to allow more dense housing. Is that what's going on? I mean, just for clarification purposes.
Mhm. Do you want me to answer it? Yeah, so some of these deviations are called out by the state when it comes to parking exemptions. And also what we already have adopted through our required programs and policies in our housing element, which calls out for smaller lot subdivisions and then reduction in parking for the streamlining of housing in order to create more dense and more units as part of the housing crisis in California.
So this seems to me kind of like there's a lot of walking space. You know, you can walk to the school, you can walk to the park, you can walk to Hartnell,
MST.
right? The MST is there, right? So I'm kind of feeling like this is built around kind of a 15-minute model. Is this, am I kind of even in that ballpark?
Well, I am it is near, again, transit options. It's near one of the biggest and newest parks in Soledad, and also proximity to schools. Therefore, I think the goal of the small lot subdivision concept is to create smaller units and affordable units by design, where you can meet other categories of income throughout, not just one favorable um, bucket, right, of housing. In this case, we believe that the type of development being proposed, as it being small lot subdivision and access to the nearby amenities, it seems like it'll help more of that missing middle class that we haven't offered housing for, as well as meeting the affordable housing component of the requirement, which is 20% requirement. And a lot of those findings for this type of development is to see how accessible they are to transit options, public transportation, as well as other recreational amenities. And I think within that subdivision, it's about 200 feet away from the bus stop at Hartnell, maybe a little bit more, and about 400 or almost 500 feet away from Jack Francione, which is just up the street. It could be a little bit more. But giving the proximity of those amenities, it created a good argument for us to move this project forward to a planning commission review and to city council.
And then I just have one more question. And I see the floor to the other commissioners is, you know, you're talking about the middle income community, right? And a lot of the middle income community actually commutes. They don't all work in this area, so they're commuting either south or they're commuting north. And this will provide some access to housing, which is not usually available to them. So we might be either meeting the need for people who commute here or attracting more commuters, correct?
That's what I was gonna say. This provides housing accessibility for those in the middle income, low income area. And then also accessibility to our schools, parks, you know, more amenities than they would if they were in this specific area. So I mean, I think you can tell by, I'd like to move forward with the 61, the original proposal, and not decrease, because there's a park that they can access. I get it, you know, we could have it internally here, have it done, but we're losing 2 units if we move with the first option.
Well, how many did we gain through splitting the lots?
I don't think that's a question at this point, because the lots were
You know,
split, they're
but it's
gonna
part of
provide.
it, right? So that was a deviation that the developers had to come here to get approval for.
Well, I don't think
So-
it's the number of how many we gained. It's we're trying to maximize the number of units within a smaller area, which is the 4 acres. So I don't think that was ever a question of how many could have been to how many we have now. And like Ariana said earlier, had it been a standard lot size of 5,000 square feet per, we would have what, 24 units max? As opposed to the 61 that are being proposed.
It would be 12 acres per, 12 units per acre. And again, that's just a ballpark number because a lot of it goes into play regarding the street, the development standards. So that's the minimum number that they could have met. And in this case, they're proposing 61.
Do you have a slide of the original that shows the 8 units and the street where the parking is? How far would because I know there was some proposed parking across on the other side, but how much was available on the street for the apartments.
So across
here.
the street was 5 parking spaces. And then in front of the multifamily, it's 23. And then in
Total, how many units?
24. And then there's 6 spaces on site, 5, 6, and 9.
Excuse me if I
Go.
may, I could bring some clarity to the parking question.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
please.
For the street parking along the street that faces the multifamily, those are backyards of the other, of the houses there. So it's not as if someone who lives in the house would park there and walk to their house. It is really oriented to the multifamily. So we thought it was a valid idea to include those in the totality of the multifamily parking that is available that serves that. And when you include it in that manner, we are talking about 50 parking spaces and meeting well, with the 22 unit version, actually meeting your ordinance without any parking reduction. If at 24 units, it misses it by a couple spaces. We, as noted earlier, the state has handed down a number of things that say, well, you can't deny a project based on parking and you have to have,
Right.
and you get a parking reduction and all
Mhm.
that. I want to be clear, we didn't ask for any of that. We're actually having more parking on site than your baseline standard that you would require. It is more of a configuration question of the parking than the quantity that is there. So yeah, I agree, there's compromise, but we felt that we were trying to find a proper balance.
And you did a great job. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. So just, I think out loud. So looking at this, what I'm seeing is that given that we're landlocked, we don't have that much property. We're utilizing something that's not what we're used to in open area, especially ag country.
Mhm.
So we're looking at a more dense format or model of building a home, which is closer to what would be more of an inner city look. Still provides opportunity for people to purchase property, to, come in and move. And it's just, that's an accommodation we're gonna have to make, or it is gonna be the parking, just like everybody else does in other larger cities. And I do understand what Commissioner Diaz's concern is, because, we already talked about the new housing development coming in. What's the infrastructure gonna be? And, we're building a more dense environment, but at the same time, we have to meet arena numbers. We're
Mhm.
kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, we have competing priorities.
Yeah,
And-
yeah,
And we're here for housing,
yeah.
not for parking, especially with all the, the lax regulations on parking requirements.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions, concerns, discussions?
Yeah, if we were to really look at taking advantage of the density, these lots can be a lot closer together. They can be side by side. You can use
Tighter.
demising walls. They can be townhomes
Yeah.
and have even less parking than what's being required. Looking at this map, there's still a lot of circulation. There's still a lot of air and open space between the units.
Mm.
I was over there in the area the other day, just looking at it. In real view, the lot's not that big, and the park is there, the schools are there, everything's within walking distance. And I personally don't have any concerns for the 61 units that are being proposed, the original plan. I think it's gonna be a big benefit to the community, a big benefit to the city, because we're gonna be meeting our arena, or not meeting, but adding to arena numbers, providing housing for the public, and giving somebody a starter home.
Mhm.
So I'm in agreement with sticking with the original 61.
Any additional questions, concerns, comments?
And again, I think we just need to keep in mind as a board that this is just a recommendation to city council, and city council could go completely in a different direction. So, at this
Right.
point, you know. Okay, if anybody does not have any other questions, I'm ready to move forward on a vote.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and seek a motion. So I can move. Have we closed the hearing?
Yeah, it was
Hearing?
closed.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I move that the planning commission approve resolution number 2025-05 and recommend that the city council adopt an ordinance approving planned unit development PUD 23-001 investing tentative subdivision map TM 23-002 consistent with the staff's recommendation of the original proposal. Can I get a motion to approve? Ms. Forte,
Yeah.
a motion? Thank you.
I motion that we approve that the planning commission approve resolution number 2025-05 and recommend that the city council adopt an ordinance approving plan unit development PUD 23-001 investing tentative subdivision map TM 23-002 consistent with staff's recommendation of the original proposal.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sanchez. For seconding, so it has been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call?
Chair Josie Perez Aguilera,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sergio Diaz,
No.
Commission Member Sandy Duarte,
Aye.
Commission Member Roberto Cruz, Commission Member Lorenzo Sanchez.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion has passed, 3 ayes, 1 no, and 1 absent. All right, thank you very much on this. So this motion has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next item, the Community and Economic Development Department report. And so we have Community and Economic Development Department activity report, and then after that, the building permit log. So go ahead and proceed.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. In that, we decided to attach the Community and Economic Development Department activity report to Planning Commission. This is something that we present to City Council on a monthly basis, but it's an overview of what the department has been working on for the last month. So that's there for the commissioners to review. And if you have any questions about any particular project, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. I did want to highlight a couple of projects. One of them is, I don't know if you are aware, but the Holiday Inn has submitted a site plan for review. They submitted the site plan. It was deficient, so we sent it back to the applicant and we're waiting to get that resubmitted. So they expect to resubmit a revised plan in September. But we were wanting, one of our big goals is to have a hotel, especially something like a Holiday Inn, something different that it's not a motel format in our city. So this is one of the projects that is in the pipeline. We hope to be bringing it in front of you for your review soon. The other one that it's also in the early stages is a truck stop that's being proposed. They had submitted an application last year. There has been some hiccups with the project, but it has resumed this year. Starting the summer, it has started to pick up. So right now the applicant is working on resubmitting their plan. And once that's ready, we will bring it to Planning Commission. Another project that it's more in the closer future is Almond Acres. This project we started working a while ago. It's 9.5 acres. It's actually across the street from Parcel B, the project that we were just discussing. And this one will produce, or is proposing to produce, 55 single-family dwelling units and 12 multifamily units. This is one of the examples of a for-profit developer and non-profit developer partnering to propose something to Planning Commission and City Council. So this is a partnership currently between Nino Homes and Chispa. Chispa will is proposing to develop the multifamily portion of it, and Nino will do the market rate. So we completed an environmental impact report for Almond Acres, and we are wanting or we're aiming to present this item to Planning Commission by November. Another one is the school housing, the school union, the school housing project, which is across the street from our fire station. That one, as you can see, it's moving really fast. Construction is going by really, really fast. They're using a lot of new technologies, a lot of new strategies. If you have a chance to stop by, they're one of the first ones to use prefabricated walls. So if you go there, you're gonna see that they're just putting up walls. So it's no modular construction, but it's very efficient, and that allows the project to move faster. In Tractor Supply, hopefully you received the calendar invite already. They're having a soft opening on this Saturday, the 13th, and then the grand opening will be on Saturday, the 20th. Those are the main highlights from the activity report, but if you have any particular items that you have any questions on or that you would like further clarification, I'm happy to do that.
Do you have an update on Container Village?
Yes, so the Container Village, actually, we just finished a feasibility study. We're in the process of applying for an EDA grant. We hope to do that in the next month or so. So one of the things that happened with the Container Village is that when we were assessing what was really the purpose for the project is the city really wants to make sure that we have control over the rent amounts, because a lot of the commercial rent, first of all, we don't have a lot of retail space, and then retail space leases are going up. So we wanted to make sure that we are providing this opportunity to smaller businesses who we want to make sure that the rent increases don't displace them from our city. So council direction was for the city to retain ownership. So by retaining ownership, it just takes a little bit longer to build, because now we have to find sources of funding. One of the ideas from council was to phase out the project. So we're gonna try to start activating the area with first having a truck pod, which hopefully that can happen next year. So we have a lot of work to do to get there, including we will have to have some ordinances that are gonna have to be reviewed or updated. And then that will be phase one, a truck pod. And then after that, hopefully that can create some revenue to start also adding to the funding needed for the Container Village to continue to develop. But we're gonna do it in a phased approach.
And the Oasis truck stop, where is that being proposed?
That is actually the truck stop that I was talking about, and that one is right next to Panda off of Nestle Road, right, Ariana?
Yeah, off H. de la Rosa Street by McDonald's. If you go straight up,
Mhm.
it's that I call it the chipmunk site
Yeah.
for the metal building that's there. Mhm.
Everybody knows the chipmunk.
The
shop.
lumber, the middle.
There you go.
Okay, so
Any additional questions? No? Okay, and then we saw the building permit log. Does anybody have any questions on the building permit log? Looks like just ADUs. and-
Yeah, that's part of the activity report for building, so that you can see the permits that were being issued during the last month.
Mhm. Most of them are solar or ADU permits, so rooftop.
Yeah, those are most of the over-the-counter permits.
Are you seeing an increase in the number of ADU permits?
I think we're still seeing an increase of conversions, garage conversions, or JADUs, which is using existing space of your house to create a new unit. We do see a handful monthly about the detached ADUs. And I think a lot of people are interested in detached ADUs, but there's a lot of barriers when it comes to detached ADUs to the community is what we're seeing. A lot of it is the funding, the construction cost, where you have already the existing structure of your house and you can, it's cheaper to use a garage conversion or JADU, whereas a detached, you have to invest more. So it's a lot of education to the community as well, because once it gets to that point, we do see some people that are like, well, that's a lot of money. I don't want to move forward with it, right? So we are doing some more in-depth, I guess, appointments with community members to help understand that there's a lot of different factors that play a role into creating ADUs. and see which ADU works best for what they want to do.
What's the
Yeah.
turnaround on the permits?
So we cannot exceed the first review for 30 days. That's a state requirement. We have to streamline it as much as possible. And then the second review should be around 2 to 3 weeks in Soledad.
Are you seeing them use the free plans or are they going, doing their own?
I think right now we are seeing more of an influx of the garage conversions. They're interested again in the pre-approved ADUs, and they do obtain the information. I think it just goes down now to the cost of construction right now that is being impediment to that development. But we do see that the people want those type of units to have detached units more than the garage conversions. Mhm.
If you're looking at the footings, the foundation, plumbing, everything from scratch, it all adds up.
So that's why I see, I live on Lucia, so I see a lot of garage conversions
Yeah.
happening in that area. Like every street I walk on, there's at least one or two happening.
Yeah. I could say that a lot of the people interested in these ADUs that have been, at least I've met with, it's usually due to someone leaving a different house and they got evicted, or family members are coming back into town and they don't have a place to have. So I think a lot of it is driven by the needs of the families as well.
What's the average cost for a permit for a garage conversion?
So we did update our fees a little bit, so I might be off by a few $100, but for detached units, it's around $3,000 for a permit. And for garage conversion, it depends on the value. Both of those depend on valuation, but I think garage conversion, you're looking around 2,500 to 2,500, give or take, maybe, depending on the square footage
Mhm.
as well.
Sounds good. Any other questions or comments, concerns? No? Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Commissioner announcements and reports.
I have nothing.
All right, then we'll go ahead and adjourn. The meeting has been adjourned at 7:21.